I didn't realize my phone number had left the room until the man used it at my register. He smiled like we were old friends. I'd never seen him in my life. 2 nights earlier, it was just trivia at a bar in Ybor with my friend Kayla. Nothing wild. There's always a connector in a friend group, the one who treats introductions like favors and boundaries like suggestions. She means well, they usually do. Attention feels like generosity to them. They confuse momentum for consent. In their head, your life needs a push, and they're the one to give it. The next morning, I got a text from a Tampa number. Hey, it's Miles from last night. I hadn't met a Miles. People like to believe information is harmless until it moves. The way a number becomes a shortcut through a person's caution. You think it's no big deal until your phone buzzes with a name you never gave. Cautious types negotiate their safety in inches, not leaps. We measure strangers by context, not by charm. I asked Kayla, and she laughed it off. He's nice. You need to get out more. That's the story people tell when they want your yes to be easy. I'm forgiving, but forgiveness is not a spare key. I work the floor at an outdoor gear store at International Plaza, where Saturdays are steady and distractions are free. A good routine can hide a problem until it stands right in front of you. Miles did. He set a camp mug on the counter and asked about a headlamp for night runs on Bayshore. He looked at my name tag like it confirmed something. When I typed in his rewards lookup and he offered, try my number, my throat went tight. Then he said Kayla's name. That's when the safety line moved. Some people collect details like souvenirs. They call it interest. You call it your life. I kept my voice even. Do you have the SKU? He laughed like the SKU line was a joke and gave me his card instead. Miles Crandall. The embossing read, as if proof erased the problem. He asked about trail shoes, about what I did for fun, about whether I'd ever tried kayaking at Weeki Wachee. People think piling up pleasant topics makes them safe. In retail, you learn the difference between friendly and familiar. Friendly stays on the product. Familiar drifts to you. A name tag invites assumptions. Some customers treat it like a doorbell you can't turn off. I stuck to the script that protects you when your heart rate rises for reasons you can't justify to anyone but yourself. I compared lumens, mentioned the return policy, typed like the register was a shield. When he said, Kayla told me you're great with gear, I nodded and rang him up. Flirting thinks it's subtle. Pressure thinks it's charming. You're allowed to respond with competence and nothing else. That's the quiet boundary. Meet interest with information, not access. At the end, he lingered. I'll bring you a coffee sometime, he said, like he was offering community service. Kayla said you're usually on Saturdays. That slid in sideways. Schedules don't sound private until you imagine someone building a map of your day from scrap. He asked for a bag. I said we were paper only. He left with a wave that lasted 1 beat too long. It wasn't a crime. It was a calculus. Safety isn't about drama. It's about margin. After my break, I texted Kayla. I kept it neutral. Please don't share my number or schedule again. Fixers hear that and translate it into fear you should conquer. Friends hear it and honor it. She sent 3 messages in a row. He's harmless. I worry too much. She was just playing matchmaker. There's a type of helper who believes your boundaries are symptoms. They want a success story they can point to later. You're not a project. You're a person whose consent isn't a puzzle to solve. I told my manager I wanted a new name tag with just my first initial. She didn't ask why. Women in customer service read subtext without notes. I added a tiny note to the incident log, no drama, just facts, and set my phone to silence unknown callers until I could think. That night, Kayla sent a group text about brunch at Armature Works on Sunday. Miles might swing by, she wrote, as if he'd been pre-approved. I replied, please don't invite him for me. She sent a heart, then a winky face. I skipped brunch. I told Kayla I had a shift, which wasn't true. I just didn't want to sit across from a man who thought my number was a door prize. Connectors mistake events for trust. If everyone gathers at a long table, they assume the edges have softened. But safety doesn't change because the menu is good. Women are trained to be polite. Cautious women train themselves to be plain. Monday morning, before we opened, my manager, Karina, ran through loss prevention. When she asked for questions, I raised my hand. What do we do if a customer starts using staff info to find us? The room got quiet in the way it does when everyone understands without details. Karina handed me a script. Please keep our interaction to store business, plus permission to tag security if someone lingered at the front. Practical beats dramatic. Policies feel like armor you can put on without explaining why you need it. At lunch, Miles texted again. No pressure, but I'm at International if you want that coffee. He added a smiley. Clarity feels rude to people who expect warmth on demand. I typed, please don't contact me outside the store. I'm not interested. Sent, he replied fast. Got it. Totally understand. Then, a minute later, maybe another time. That's how soft boundaries become negotiations if you let them. The second message wasn't a threat. It was a test to see if I'd take back my first no. An hour later, a small envelope came through the stockroom with my name in careful handwriting. Inside was a $5 coffee gift card and his business card again. Retail trains you to normalize gestures because most are harmless, but context matters. A gift after a no is not generosity. It's a receipt someone prints to prove intent. I brought it to Karina and logged it. She slid the card back into the envelope and said she'd talked to mall security about doing a loop at close. I checked Instagram on my break and found the leak. Kayla had posted stories from brunch with a caption. Go say hi to my girl at the gear shop. She's working today till 6. Tag, location, hours, the whole breadcrumb trail. Matchmakers think the world is a small town if they narrate it hard enough. I texted her a screenshot and wrote, this crosses a line. She replied with 3 laughing emojis and, babe, it's promotion. I started typing a long explanation and then deleted it. I wrote one sentence instead. Stop posting my schedule and stop giving out my number. I hit send, then turned my ringer back on. The next buzz I wanted to hear was her apology, or nothing at all. Kayla finally texted back a voice note, the kind people send when they want tone to do the convincing. She said I was making this weird. That she was trying to shake me out of my bubble. There's a personality that confuses discomfort with growth. They think friction means progress because it makes a good story later. They curate your life like a mood board, selective, glossy, and missing the part where you carry the consequences. At the store, Karina printed a fresh name tag with just my initial and walked me through a small script. Acknowledge, redirect, document. Mall security added us to their closing sweep. Procedures can feel cold until you realize they're a language for when you don't want to justify your feelings. Retail teaches you to translate instinct into policy, so you can stop arguing with yourself about whether you deserve to feel safe. Mid-afternoon, Miles came back to return the headlamp because the strap felt off. He set it down gently, looked everywhere but my face, then said he hoped there were no hard feelings. Tests often arrive packaged as politeness. I stayed in the lane Karina gave me, kept it to the return, processed the refund, and said, please keep our interaction to store business. He nodded, murmured something about telling Kayla we were good, and left. The exchange wasn't dramatic. It just underlined the problem. When someone treats access as a favor they granted themselves, even a clean no feels like a negotiation they might revisit. On my break, I locked down my Instagram, deleted location tags, and scrubbed old posts that mentioned shifts. Then the Google review hit. 5 stars for our store, a line about great service from L, and a winky note about grabbing coffee sometime. Harmless on paper, risky in practice. Reviews aren't private, they're a stage. Karina flagged it with corporate, added a note to our incident log, and offered to walk me to my car after close. She didn't ask me to explain why it bothered me. That's what solidarity looks like in customer service. Quiet adjustments that say, I believe you. That night, I called Kayla because text made everything look smaller than it felt. I told her the review happened and that I was done being the main character in a story I didn't choose. She said I was punishing her for having a social life and reminded me how she meant well. Intent is a mirror people hold up when they don't want to look at outcome. I kept it simple. No more sharing my number, no more posting my schedule, no more inviting men to find me at work. I added that if she needed me to be looser to be her friend, we were at an impasse. Silence stretched. Then she said, we should talk in person because texts make me defensive. I agreed to meet her Wednesday after my shift at a busy cafe in Hyde Park. Public, daylight, neutral. I hung up and felt the boundary settle where it should have been all along. I got to the cafe early and picked a table with my back to the wall. That's how cautious people buy peace. Small geometry choices. Kayla swept in 10 minutes late, sunglasses on her head like an alibi, and hugged me before I could stand. She opened with brightness, the way fixers do when they're trying to outrun an apology. I kept it simple. I told her the review, the gift card, the return, the envelope with my name on it. Helpers who thrive on introductions often believe the world improves when frictions disappear. They forget that boundaries are not frictions, they're load-bearing. "You meant well," I said, "and it still put me in a spot." She exhaled and said I was taking it super literally. Literal is how safety works. Vibes don't hold up when someone repeats your schedule back to you. Then she admitted it. There was a shared Google sheet, Tampa Mixers, where she'd listed single friends with notes so "We don't waste time," columns for name, number, neighborhood, even work hours. She'd added me months ago. She'd shared it with a drifting circle of acquaintances who liked playing social architect. Information seems generous until it's a map. I asked her to delete my row and revoke access. She winced like I was shutting a door in a fun house. Efficiency is a value until it steamrolls consent. We drafted a text to Miles together. I dictated. She typed, "Hey, I overstepped giving out Elle's number and work schedule. Please don't contact her again or come by her store for non-store reasons. That's on me, and I'm fixing it." She sent it, delivered, popped up, then, "Seen." A beat later, he replied, "Understood. Won't happen again." No emojis, no coffee joke. Kayla looked relieved like the scene had wrapped. People who cause messes often want the cleanup to also be the lesson you thank them for. I told her plainly I needed time. Trust doesn't rebound because a text lands. After work, I updated Karina. We set my profile on receipts to team member instead of my name and asked corporate to remove staff names from public responses. I turned on app-level filters, swapped my loyalty accounts to alias emails, and shortened my voicemail greeting to just my initials. Practical fixes are boring on purpose. They return your life to regular scale. Later that night, I saw Miles had edited his review, left it at 5 stars with no mention of me. Clean. Good. I set my alarm for the morning shipment and put in for more stockroom hours. The sales floor is where friendliness becomes familiarity. The back is where my pulse remembers its normal pace. The week settled into something like normal. I took more stockroom time, learned the quiet rhythm of unboxing boots, and let my pulse match the tape gun. People who love connecting think a single text fixes trust. Cautious people know trust resets like a slow reboot. Karina gave us a low-key code. If anyone drifted from product talk into personal, we could page Neptune, and a second associate would step in. Not dramatic, just a hand on the wheel. Thursday, Devin from Footwear slid his phone over. In his co-working Slack, someone had asked, "Who has that Tampa Mixers doc?" And a screenshot followed, a cropped grid with my initial, "Gear Shop," and "Sat till 6. It wasn't labeled private. The link looked like one of those "anyone with link can view" things. Information doesn't leak, it travels. Every hop blurs the origin until the responsibility feels communal, and the impact still lands on one person. I texted Kayla, "Take the sheet down now and send a message revoking permission." She replied she already had. Maybe she did, but copies are a species. At lunch, I ate in the food court near the fountain. A guy around my age stopped at my table, palms open, non-threatening. "Hey, sorry, are you Elle from Kayla's sheet? Someone said you knew good trail route." He said it like a Yelp request, polite to a fault. I said no and added that I wasn't on any list. He apologized, backed up, and told me he'd seen it in a Bayshore running group chat, forwarded by a friend of a friend. Not villainy, just velocity. I logged the interaction with Karina on a sticky note when I got back, the way you file a paper cut so you remember why it stings. That night I asked Kayla to send a clear cleanup. Not vibes, not jokes, just, "I shared something I shouldn't have. Delete any copies." She posted a bubbly PSA about privacy nuts and "City feels small lol." Then screenshotted her own post to show me she'd handled it. People who prize charisma often prefer an audience to an apology. I wrote my own message to mutuals. "If you have a list with my info, please delete it. I didn't consent to being on it." 3 women responded with thumbs ups and "got you." One guy asked if this meant I was anti-meeting people. I didn't reply. Consent isn't a stance, it's a boundary. Karina asked me to help draft a 1-pager for the team. No names on receipts, no schedules and stories, default to initials on badges, where to escalate when customers push past product. It felt good to make something that might save someone else from having to argue their instinct. Then a calendar invite popped up from Kayla's group. "Surprise dinner for Kay, Saturday 7 p.m. RSVPs rolled in. I hovered over, decline, and clicked it. A minute later, Kayla texted, "You're still coming, right? Don't be weird. I put you by me." I typed, "I'm not coming." I waited, watching the 3 dots appear and vanish, and felt the decision finally stick. Saturday at the store felt normal on the surface. Families arguing about cooler sizes, teens trying on hiking sandals for Instagram. The usual. Normal is how cautious people recover. You keep your hands busy so your thoughts don't spiral. Karina posted our new one-pager in the break room and taped a small sign by the registers. For your privacy, team members use initials. Policies are quiet promises. They don't fix people, but they fix patterns. Jess, a mutual friend, came in for running socks and leaned on the counter the way good friends do when they're checking your weather without making a scene. She lowered her voice and told me something that shifted the puzzle. Kayla wasn't just playing matchmaker. She'd been getting comp drinks from a Soho wine bar for every introduction. That turned into a date night. The sheet wasn't just about efficiency. It was how she tracked points. There's a type of social architect who believes outcomes justify methods because they're keeping the party alive. They forget that other people are footing the bill with their privacy. I didn't throw a fit. I rang up Jess, thanked her, and went to the stockroom to breathe. You can forgive an overstep. You forgive less easily when someone benefits from it. Helpers who monetize their helpfulness rarely call it profit. They call it community. But if your number is the currency, you get to close the account. I wrote down what Jess said, tucked it into our incident log, and stared at the mall floor plan taped to the wall. Boundaries get real when you see the route someone used to reach you. An hour before close, the store phone rang. I answered, and a manager from that wine bar asked if I was out from Kayla's list and whether I'd be swinging by after your 6 o'clock. He was cheerful, clueless, and assumed the world matched the flyer copy. I told him plainly he had the wrong idea and asked him not to call my workplace again. He apologized, sounded genuinely embarrassed, and hung up fast. It wasn't menace, it was marketing. People who run scenes believe momentum fixes consent as long as everyone is smiling. Kayla texted a group photo from the surprise dinner right at 7, clinking glasses, captions about love languages, and friendship points. She tagged me even after I declined. Tagging feels harmless to the tagger. To you, it's a breadcrumb in a trail you didn't choose to walk. I DM'd her separately. Take down the tag. Stop using my name to fill your events. She replied with a single line that told me everything. You're overcorrecting. People who live off access think boundaries are mood swings. I put my phone face down, finished close with Karina, and asked security for a walk to my car. Safety sometimes looks like an escort and a quiet nod at the curb. I drove home knowing the conversation with Kayla wasn't about a guy anymore. It was about what she believed she was allowed to do with me. Sunday morning, a woman I didn't know DM'd me to say she was glad I greenlit Miles because Kayla told her I'd vouched. That was a new angle. My name wasn't just on a list. It was being used as a stamp. Connectors borrow credibility the way people borrow sweaters. Easy to hand out, easy to forget who wears it. Your reputation becomes a coupon someone else redeemed. Cautious people know that once your name starts traveling, you can't follow it to explain what you didn't mean. I wrote Kayla a plain message. I asked her to send a direct correction to anyone who saw the sheet, to the Bayshore chat, to the wine bar, and to stop using my name to warm up introductions. I said I needed proof it was done, screenshots, remove tags, the list taken down. Friendship isn't a license. It's a contract you keep renewing with behavior. People who thrive on access think trust restocks itself overnight. It doesn't. It's inventory you count slowly. She called instead of texting. She said I was blowing up a small thing and admitted the bar gave her drink tokens for every successful setting. She called it community perk. I told her I already knew. Helpers who profit quietly tell themselves it's fine because everyone has fun. But when the fun runs through your information, the math changes. I kept my voice even and repeated what needed to happen. She pivoted to nostalgia, to how we met, to how she'd been there after my last breakup. People reach for history when the present doesn't flatter them. I phoned the bar manager after we hung up. I told him I hadn't consented to any program that used my name or schedule. He sounded mortified. He said Kayla had pitched herself as a brand connector, that they'd stop tracking points after feedback, and that they'd delete any list references. He promised to remind staff not to call workplaces. Not villainy, just sloppy incentives. Systems reward outcomes. People carry the cost. I took a photo of my call log and added it to our incident notes, not because anyone asked, but because documentation is how cautious people keep their footing. Kayla posted a story story that afternoon about learning privacy lessons. Half apology, half shrug. She didn't name me, but the subtext was loud. Replies poured in with heart emojis and "You're a good friend" comments. That's the audience talking, not the person who has to walk to her car at night. I texted Kayla one more time. I needed distance. I said I wished her well, and that I wouldn't be at events she organized. Then I muted our thread. No speech, no scene. I set out my work shoes for Monday and checked the lock. Boundaries worked best when they were boring and final. Monday, corporate sent a memo that looked dry and felt like oxygen. No full names on badges or receipts. No schedules in public posts. A script for recentering customer conversations on product. Karina asked me to help lead a 5-minute huddle about why it mattered. We didn't retell my week. We talked patterns. How small leaks become maps. How friendliness can be used as a ladder. How privacy is not paranoia. It's maintenance. Procedures aren't drama. They're compassion scaled. You don't need a villain to justify a boundary. An email from the wine bar followed. They were ending there. Connector perk. Deleting any tracking docs, and reminding staff not to call workplaces, ever. The language was bland and perfect, not because it healed anything, but because it shut the door. Systems are slow to admit they were rewarding the wrong thing. It matters when they do. I screenshotted the message for our incident file, and felt my shoulders drop a half-inch. You measure progress in tiny posture changes when you've been holding yourself braced. Just looped me into a women's running thread that runs Bayshore at sunrise. No tags, no public invites. The rules were simple. Share routes. Don't share people. We met at dawn by the balustrade, moving in that quiet line runners make when conversation hasn't woken up yet. Tampa felt like itself again. Water, wind, pelicans, the predictable curve of the path. Cautious doesn't mean closed. It means you decide the terms. You can forgive the world in pieces without handing it your map. Kayla sent screenshots that afternoon. The sheet gone, link permissions revoked, a short message posted to the Mixer chat asking people to delete any copies. Then she texted me separately. It was longer than anything she'd sent all week. She said she was sorry. She said she got carried away. She said she thought she was helping. Intent always shows up to plead its case. She asked if we could meet so she could apologize properly and give me a few things she had of mine. A Tupperware, a sweatshirt from a beach day, a book I'd lent her. Logistics slip in when emotions are heavy. It's the brain's way of offering you handhold. I read her message twice and drafted 3 replies I didn't send. Then I wrote one that fit the person I wanted to be. I said I could meet in daylight, in public, for 15 minutes, and that I wouldn't be restarting the friendship. I added that I appreciated the screenshots and the effort to clean up, and that I needed us to be done. Cautious but forgiving doesn't mean you circle back forever. It means you thank someone for finally hearing you and still keep the door you closed. I set the meeting for Tuesday noon at the same Hyde Park Cafe, chose a table with my back to the wall, and felt the quiet clarity of a decision that was overdue. Kayla was already at the Hyde Park Cafe when I walked in, a paper bag on the table, my sweatshirt, the book, the Tupperware. She stood, then sat, like she couldn't decide which posture would fix it. Apologies come in 2 kinds, the kind meant to comfort you, and the kind meant to clean their conscience. You could accept either, but only one helped. She said the sheet was gone, access revoked, messages sent. She admitted the drink tokens sounded worse out loud than they had in her head. She said she missed me. People who organize the room think proximity is repair, as if being within reach restores trust by default. I thanked her for the cleanup and told her I believed she didn't mean to put me at risk, but I also said trust isn't a light switch. I needed my number to stop being a community project. I needed my name to stop traveling without me. She nodded hard, eyes glassy, and asked if there was any version where we work back. I told her I didn't have the energy to be someone's lesson while also being their friend. We kept it practical. I asked her not to use me as a reference, not to speak for me, not to invite me to events. She agreed. We split the check even though it was only 2 iced coffees. Clean endings like clean lines. She opened her arms like she might hug me, then thought better of it. We said take care. That's not cold. That's precise. You're allowed to exit a friendship at the speed of clarity, not drama. On the way to work, I archived our thread and removed her from my favorites. In the break room, the Neptune note sat under the new policy printout, ordinary as a floor map. I helped a teen pick a backpack for a freshman year he was half excited about and half dreading. The world kept its scale. Later, a single text from Miles landed. "Apologies again. Won't stop by." I didn't respond. Not anger, maintenance. Some things are complete when you stop feeding them. That week I ran Bayshore at sunrise with a women's thread. No tags, no posts, no audience. Tampa looked like a city again instead of a web. Being cautious didn't make me closed. It made me the one writing my terms. If you're wired like me, you learn that forgiveness doesn't require access, and safety doesn't require a story big enough to impress anyone. I lost a friend I'd known for years, and gained back the boring peace of moving through my day without explanation. Bittersweet, sure, but I chose the part one could live with, and left the rest where it belonged, behind me.